Hi, I'm Mark, and I'm with Nathan Williamson, and we've been communicating, haven't we, Nathan, via LinkedIn? I think we met on LinkedIn, and we've done a bit of
Yeah,
communication with each other.
yeah. So it was probably near on 6 months ago now.
Yeah,
Time flies. Near on 6 months ago, we become connected through our journeys
yeah,
and our businesses. So yeah, it's been a long road over that 6 months,
I can
but
imagine it has. Yeah,
we've managed to get here today.
we have, and we're both particularly interested in management and leadership, and I know that it's a big part of what you do, being a manager of a sales department. So where did it all start for you, Nathan? When did you kind of start managing, and what's been your journey?
So my start of management actually started in the police force. So until 2014, I was a police officer and temporary police sergeant with Essex Police. So my management started there running a response shift. Um, After leaving the police, I found my way into the automotive sector, um, which isn't so far removed as you may think to policing. Started as a sales executive, um, worked my way into business manager, finance manager roles, which is
Yeah,
the next progressive step up. And now find myself and have been for the last sort of 18 months a general sales manager running the sales department as a whole, with a transaction manager by my side, and then a sales team of 4 and 5 sales executives
mm,
at Beadle Skoda at Southend.
that's that sounds really interesting. So what um what what dictates, I guess, when you manage and when you lead people, what kind of dictates the style in which you do it? Because I know one of the big things you wanted to talk about, and I did as well, was about styles of management. So it'd be really interesting to hear from you how you describe your style and why you use that style. Really, what is it that makes you manage in that way? Because I remember the early um, messaging that we were doing on LinkedIn, and you came across as someone who really prides himself on the way that you do lead your people, and you do look after them, and you see them as a really important part of what you do. And I know that not every manager might see it like that. So it's really interesting to hear about your style and how you communicate.
I think for me it was important where we started out as a new dealership. So I had the luxury of having a very big say in the people that I managed to place around me, which is a massive thing because you know what you're looking for, who
Yeah,
will fit in that team. Um, for me, it's all about. Um, I'm very conscious that I can't get to where I need to be, and I can't do what I need to do without those people by my side. And I think there are some people that think a little bit differently to that, and
yeah,
it's not to say that that doesn't work, but for me and the type of person I am, having that team around me and having a solid and consistent team allows me to achieve the goals that I'm looking to get to.
yeah,
Um, I will always have a conversation with my guys, and I'll always be at the forefront. So if there's something that needs doing, whether it be out on the used car forecourt, in the showroom, there's not in that respect a difference. I don't see why my sales team should be out on a cold December morning moving the forecourt while I'm sat in the office. I'll be the first one to zip my coat up and go, right, come on, let's get out there and do that. And we
yeah,
we do it side by side, and everything in our business is done side by side, and that makes a massive difference. Not only to the people that work around me, but also the customers as well.
Yeah.
Because the customers can see that we are all one team. In my building, we can see everyone. So my office is glass fronted. There's no segregation. Everyone can see in, everyone can see out, and I think that's a really important part of the journey as well.
Yeah. We were talking before about a post that I put up on LinkedIn yesterday, and it was about creating clones of yourself and how that might not be the best way to influence and manage and lead people. What are your thoughts on that, Nathan? How do you?
So I again, very similar to yourself. I think if you have too many of yourself, it's a little bit short-sighted. I like my team to ask questions,
Right.
And likewise, I like to ask them questions that make them think how I would think.
Yeah.
Not necessarily because they'd come up with the same answer, but the more autonomy that they have and the more questions that they can ask themselves about the outcome of a specific situation before they get to me gives a different perspective.
Right.
We all think of different things. So is there a solution that I have thought about that they haven't, and likewise that they have thought about that I haven't, to enable a best solution for that problem or scenario? If everyone's thinking or a clone of thinking like you and a clone of you, you don't get that difference of opinion. You don't get that other solution that may just be best suited to that situation.
Yeah, it's a really good point, that. Yeah. And so how do you find out about, from your team, how do you get to find out about what their ideas and thoughts are? Do you have like a forum for that?
So it's quite an open forum that we have. Obviously, people are in and out of my office due to the nature of our business all day with customers and everything.
Yeah.
And it's a simple question, and it is it's along the lines of okay, that's what do you think we should do?
Yeah.
Yes, ultimately I'm going to have the ultimate say, and if you like, the red kill button that I'm going to press to give the final go ahead.
Yeah.
Within our sales team. But I like them, okay, what do you think? Ultimately, these people, that have come into our business as customers and sit down with my sales team have spent a lot longer with that person than I have.
Yeah.
Now, yes, I have the experience where perhaps on face value, I can make an opinion and the best route to go down. But ultimately, some of my guys now have the experience for me to go, look, what do you think? How's your customer behaving? You tell me.
Yeah.
And then we can work a solution like that.
Does that usually work around numbers when you do that?
So figures, numbers, which particular car that person is looking at.
Yeah.
And it can work with anything. I mentioned the used car forecourt. If you're looking at the used car forecourt and you're all stood there, now sometimes I scratch my head and go, okay, I need to move some stuff around. What's the best way to do it? We all have a big vision in our head, and sometimes having that, boys, what do you think your forecourt should look like? It's your shop window.
Yeah.
You've got to sell the cars. You tell me what's the compromise by keeping the brand happy, keeping everyone in the higher tier happy of management, and also having the practicality and the own individual stamp on that particular thing.
Yeah.
It's their shop, it's their shop window, it's their shelf, if you like. So the display of those cars, I think it's important for them to have a say in.
Yeah, that's really good. I think you were talking before about autonomy, and I think that's one of the things that people suffer a lack of unfortunately, and it's not just in our industry; it's across business. And the more you take it away, the more dissatisfied and disengaged they become from the business. As you can see when you look at the stats. So anything you can do that helps to improve someone's autonomy at work by asking them and valuing their opinion and maybe letting them do things that some others don't do.
That's exactly it. And everyone is on a journey, and everyone looks to do things their way. Now I'm in a very fortunate position that the parent company and my management, Group One Automotive,
Yeah,
they give me a lot of autonomy on my side of the job. On my side of the job, there are things, that I will run up the chain of command, but ultimately day to day, if there's a decision to be made, I'll have the autonomy to make that decision. That's what I'm employed for. Likewise with my salespeople, I wouldn't have employed them had I not seen the same values in them that I wish and that I have myself.
yeah.
So giving them the autonomy to make those decisions. Yes, with figures, I hold the purse strings in margins and discounts and things like that. So the decision for that is taken away from them from a business perspective, because that is how the business runs. But other elements of day-to-day bits that they control, they have the autonomy to do that.
Do you ever see a time when maybe some of the people that are in your team, do you ever see a time when maybe they'll write their own deals and they'll value their own
I can see that coming. I've got for instance, I'm off today.
Yeah.
So I'm not in the business today. So there is my senior sales executive,
right,
who is the most experienced sales executive within my building, is in today.
Yeah.
So he will have the access to write a deal if they need to, and do the things around the deal. My phone might go off once or twice today,
right,
just so I can pick up the phone, just so they can go, Nath, I've got this customer in, this is what we need to do. Is it all right if we can do that? And it's going to be a simple yes or no answer, and they'll carry on by themselves.
Right. Get you. And what to with your team, I think you said you've got 5
Yeah.
there. Can you see future managers there?
I can. And the good thing about my team is I can actually see it in every single one of them.
Right.
Which is fantastic. I've got a very wider mix of people in terms of personality. I've got, a quiet one, I've got a shy one, I've got a loud and brash one. It's a great mix of people that we have, because it's the old adage that people do buy from people, but you can't get on with everyone in this world. It's impossible. It's impossible to get on with everyone in this world. So having those different personalities is key. And I'll love people within my team to progress. If they can better themselves, and progress, whether it be, they step into the transaction manager shoes at our dealership, or there's another opportunity within Group One that they want to go for. The same way that when I started in Group One, my sales manager, when I found out about the initial job I was going to go for at Skoda Southend, was, I think you'd be brilliant for the role.
Right.
Go for it. Grab it with both hands. I really want you to progress.
Yeah.
Because that is the ethos and the culture that Group One have instilled. They like to promote within. They really do look after their people, and it's not very often that you can say that they are a joy to work for, because they will back you, and they will back you 100%. If you have the right mindset and you've got the right ambition to go to where you want to get to, then they won't stand in the way of that at all.
it sounds to me, Nathan, like you, the way that you manage people and you lead people, it sounds like that you do it just totally naturally. It doesn't sound like you've said, well, I'm going to copy that person or I'm going to copy that person. But when we were speaking just before, when we're talking about management leadership, you recommended people look at a piece of video. I guess it's on YouTube, is it?
So it is, yeah. So within the Volkswagen Group, we go up to the National Learning Centre at Milton Keynes for our training courses, management accreditations, and things like that. And there's a whole host of courses that you'll go on throughout your lifetime within sales to management and beyond. And the first video of a course I went on to, and quite well named, it was managing teams and individuals. So they run a specific course on, you know, how best to look at things, and whether it be reviews or something like that. But there was a video that we watched from Captain David Marquette. And David Marquette was the captain of a Navy submarine, a nuclear submarine called the Santa Fe, for the US Navy. And very, very similar. He asked, you know, he said, there's one person in command of this ship. You know, it's very hard to run this ship if you're in sole command. You can't be everywhere at one time.
Mm.
So what he wanted were everyone to take ownership and management of their own responsibility and role, and more importantly, ask questions. So there's a specific snippet in that video where he refers to, they were looking at diving the submarine, and the person who was responsible for diving the submarine said to the captain, shall we dive the submarine? And the captain said, well, I don't know. You're in charge of whether we dive the submarine. What do you think we should do? No, the only consideration I want you to give is, you know, is it safe to do so? You know, are we potentially going to have a mission failure if we dive the submarine now? You know, and is it the right thing to do? And if you've answered, you know, correctly to all of those questions, then dive the submarine. And then it got later down the line, instead of that person saying, you know, should we dive the submarine? That would be then, Captain, we need to dive the submarine. It's safe to do so. It's this, it's that, it's the other. And the captain would give the order. Yeah, lovely. Dive the submarine. I'm happy with the decision that you've made.
Yeah, that's really good.
And that piece has stayed with me for ever since I've looked at that video and taken that particular course. It's a very good video to watch indeed.
And how long ago did you do the course?
So I probably went on that course close to 2 years ago now.
Right, so 2 years and you still remember it. So
yeah,
that says a lot for the material. You know, that video is stuck in your mind. So
yeah, it's very impactful. So it's not of someone just stood there talking to you. It's an animated video with hand drawing. It's very engaging. So very, very, you know, very much worthwhile to watch that one.
And we can find that on YouTube, yeah?
Yeah, so it's David Marquette Leadership. If you type that into YouTube or even Google, it will come straight up.
Right. Thanks for that. So if we've got any sales executives tuning into this and they've got an aspiration, which I suppose you start with an aspiration, and they've got an aspiration to get into management, have you got kind of 2 or 3 little tips on what they should do, how to make the transition? Because you've done it.
Yeah, and it's a lot of hard work, but the main thing I will say is don't be afraid. You know, you will make mistakes. Smile, always smile. You can't do anything positively unless you're smiling, which is a great adage. And the other one is just keep going. There will be times where you will go a week without selling your product. You'll go through a patch where you'll go, my sales inquiry is down, my lead generation is down. And it's easy to get into that rut. We always talk about in sales, have you hit that rut and how do you get out of it? Every salesperson and every product that is sold via a sales process.
Yeah.
When you get into that rut, go back to basics.
Yeah.
Go back to that sales process and the rest of it will come. Often when you go through that stage and that rut, you won't think it, but you will always come across as slightly desperate, slightly needy to the customer, because all you want to do is get that sale put to bed, the car delivered and gone, and then look forward to that customer journey 1, 2, 3 years down the line when we're contacting them at our contact points. Go back to basics. Don't cut corners. And we see it time and time again, especially within the motor industry. People think that they're maybe better than the process. They may start to cut corners or round corners off because they think this is the way that I can get around it, or this is quicker for me. Don't do it. That's the biggest piece of advice. Always stick to the process.
Yeah,
the moment you start deviating from that process, it's going to stop working.
So what type of people, what type of sales execs in your experience, and you might be one of them, what type of people would make the best managers and leaders, do you think, based on what you've seen?
So there's a fine line between being a great salesperson and a manager. A lot of people will take the best salesperson and push them into a management role because they are the best at that particular role of being a sales executive. Now, that doesn't always work. Those people thrive on the selling of that product. That is why they sell the amount of units that they do.
Yeah.
Which is great. And it's a lovely feeling to sell a lot of your product. There's no better feeling. And, there's a great buzz when you sell a lot of your particular product. But we need to be calm, we need to be collective, and we need to be objective. If you're not objective in looking at things, a lot of salespeople are quite tunnel vision. It's right, okay, where's the next deal coming from? And that sometimes lets them down when they become into a management position, because sales is quite a selfish role. You live for yourself.
Yeah.
In management, you can't do that. You've got to open your eyes and think about everyone else.
Yeah.
And if you can think about everyone else and have that compassion, then those people make in my view, the best type of management.
Right. That's really insightful. Yeah, it's really insightful. And I suppose when you become a manager, rather than being there for yourself, you're there for your team, aren't you? It's a bit of a turnaround of why you're at work. Because at first you were there. A lot of salespeople, not everyone, are there for themselves. And when you become a manager, it's not about you, is it? It's about everyone.
No, and it's about, especially within our department, there's lots of moving cogs.
Yeah.
And my responsibility is to keep those cogs in good order and good fashion, because if you let them slip, and this year it's been more important than ever.
Yeah.
I've had guys on furlough from the first lockdown that came back who are back on furlough, and sometimes if they're out of the business, you just need to you know, send them a text message, and that's not solely for people within your team, but people within your day-to-day life. Is just think to yourself, is there that one person you haven't heard from?
Yeah.
Is there someone in the group chat that's gone a little bit quiet, that normally would send a message? Just check in on, you know, just check in on them, make sure everything's okay, give them an update, tell them how the business is going, because they're part of your team. They want to know how business is going. They might not be in the building at this precise moment in time, but they certainly want to know. And that welfare and keeping everyone, you know, on the same page is massively important.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right, and I think that's a good point to kind of wrap up, because there is a really big, I say, problem growing around people's mental ill health, and actually leaving people out of communication and watching out for when they don't communicate with you could be a sign that they do need a bit of support from you or anyone else. So I think that's a massive issue that we're faced with now. You know, there's lots of talk around people that are, because of their isolation, because of the fact that they're not mixing with their normal groups, and they haven't been for probably 9 months, so it's affecting how they feel. Now, I'm not saying that that's your people, because you're open, and I'm guessing that you've brought everyone back into the business since the last lockdown. So
yeah, it's massively, you know, there is a massive thing, and a lot of people are focusing on it at the moment, the mental health side of things. Within the automotive industry, we're very blessed to have the automotive charity Ben, who are a mental health and support channel for everyone in the motor trade, not just for sales executives. From, you know, whether you're a showroom host, a service advisor, a mechanic, a technician, a valeter, they are there to help and support you at ben.org.uk, I think is the website. But it's down to us as individuals to make that call. Is there something that's not right? You know, so just by having those conversations, and, you know, most people, we've all been guilty of it. You pick up the phone, how are you doing? Oh yeah, I'm all right. I'm really good. That person might not be okay. They could just be telling you that they're okay. But a lot of the time, just having that human interaction actually makes that person's day a lot better.
Yeah, there's a movement that started up a few months ago. It's called Men Able. You could find it on LinkedIn, and what Men Able is looking at is trying to change the typical motor industry culture so that people's mental health improves, because I think it's pretty evident in some businesses that those two things aren't working well together, people's mental health and the type of culture they're working in. It's not every business, but I think there's quite a few out there. So Men Able sets about to try and change the culture overall in lots of businesses in the auto industry. So if you went on LinkedIn, you could find information about that, and you could hook up with the guy that runs it, a guy called Steve Whitten, who you might, I don't know if you know,
Steve J. Whitten, yeah. So Steve and Matt, yeah. So I've got them both on LinkedIn. So
So I know Steve because he used to do a lot of work. We actually used to work for Volkswagen Financial Services years ago. They're doing loads of great work around Men Able and looking at the culture. It's been great speaking with you, Nathan. Really enjoyed it.
And you too.
And you've done all the talking as well, which was a relief to me.
Well, saves you a job.
Yeah, thanks for that. You've been really insightful, and your kind of openness about what you do. I guess what you love about it as well comes through, and those little tips for people that want to become a manager of the future. It sounds like what you're saying is keep going with what you're doing. Keep going with what you're doing.
And that's it. Once you're onto a good thing, don't let it go. You saw and commented on my post. I wrote an article for LinkedIn detailing my journey. In
Yeah.
the third person was actually quite hard to write, but it is on there. It's one for all aspiring sales managers on my LinkedIn page. You can find me at Nathan Williamson. So yeah, have a look at that as well. It will give you a great insight to how I got to where I am today.
Brilliant. Thanks for your time, Nathan. Super. Thank you.
No problem. Take care. Bye bye.